These spending cuts, unveiled yesterday by Rachel Reeves, the new UK Chancellor, hints at possible tax rises to address what she describes as a substantial 22 billion fiscal shortfall. This shortfall, this deficit, is attributed to what she calls unfunded spending commitments left by the previous Conservative government. She was roundly criticised by the ex-Chancellor Jeremy Hunt, but she identified overspending, including significant allocations for public sector pay increases, additional health spending, and costs associated with asylum and migration. The cuts she announced are intended as an interim measure, saving approximately £5.5 billion in the 2024 to 2025 financial year, potentially rising to £8.1 billion in 2025 to 2026. These measures include reductions in departmental budgets, scaling back of winter fuel payments to wealthier pensions, and the cancellation of the Rwanda asylum deportation scheme. So it's a form of austerity, but not called austerity. The Treasury also plans to review several infrastructure projects, such as road schemes, the controversial Stonehenge Tunnel project, which are expected to save further additional funds. Despite these immediate cuts, Reeves has indicated that tougher decisions, further decisions, particularly around tax and welfare, will be necessary. And while she's ruled out increases in income tax, VAT and national insurance, key revenue sources, she has left the door open for potential increases in wealth-related taxes such as capital gains and inheritance tax. And the Labour government is also exploring reforms to improve economic growth with a focus on balancing fiscal responsibility and economic expansion. So in other words, trying to get all the heavy lifting out of the way in the first few months of the government during the honeymoon period, when there will be less immediate complaint, and also taking advantage of the Conservatives' confusion and chaos as they try to elect a new leader, demonstrating absolutely how manifestly stupid it is to have a leadership election the moment a new government has been elected, the moment one government fails and one party is exposed, because this is the time when all the heavy lifting is done. The Conservative response, therefore, led by former Chancellor Jeremy Hunt, is critical, accusing Reeves of exaggerating the fiscal situation to justify tax increases, but he's a lightweight. He contends that the supposed fiscal black hole is overstated. Well, he's not in a position to challenge that now, really. He's on the back foot and suggests that Labour's policies, particularly on public sector pay, are fueling unnecessary budgetary pressures. But the Conservative Party is, again, too introspective to mount any serious opposition to this. And, you know, the Labour government inherits and faces a challenging fiscal environment requiring a delicate balance between spending cuts and potential tax increases, because the money simply isn't there. And partly because of stupid schemes like the HS2 scheme. If the money for HS2 had been invested into the railways, we would have longer platforms, we would probably have better infrastructure, we would probably have our own, we would be able to buy our own rolling stock back from Roscoe and the various companies that retain it. We don't have our own trains. It's madness. It's madness that the trains are owned by other organizations, not by the people who are running them. And, cutting off 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there from a rail journey from London to Birmingham, and then adding 20 minutes of walking from one platform to another, trying to negotiate your way through Birmingham New Street to try and find where you're supposed to be for the next leg of your journey. I mean, what benefit is that? There is no benefit. I mean, there is the modest applause that should be given to the various innovations that have been made in the building of the HS2 track. But we should be rolling those innovations out across the network. And HS2 is an expensive and a prohibitively expensive white elephant that has seen farms and houses wrecked in the interests of what? 20 minutes? 20 minutes which will be lost simply in trying to access the train or vacate the train. It's a madness. An absolute madness. When people are asking about travel, they're not asking about cutting the train time. Yeah, some trains take too long. The train all the way down to the south takes too long. But they're asking for the trains to be on time. They're asking for them to be properly serviced and properly manned. And they're asking for enough seats, an extra carriage here, an extra carriage there, so that people who book a train don't have to stand all the way. So when you book a train and you've got a seat, you've actually got that seat. 9 times out of 10, you book a train, you go to your seat and someone's sitting in it, and they've also got a booking. Because the system doesn't work. The system isn't integrated. And when you book a seat with a table, you get some silly thing with a flap-down device, which is designed for a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, and a biscuit. It's not designed for a laptop. You can't work in that environment. And you've got 3 hours of misery squashed up in a train for which you paid quite a hefty sum. And you come off this transport thing and you think, is it worth it? No, it's not. No, it's not. And the upcoming autumn budget will be a critical moment. It will outline more detailed plans for addressing the fiscal deficit while attempting to stimulate economic growth. But we have to change the manner of the debate. We have to be thinking about a positive contribution rather than whinging about all the negatives. And the negatives are enormous. And I don't think it's exclusively down to the last government. Personally, I think it's mostly down to Brexit, but it's also down to a general decay in our public services since the millennium. And that takes in the last Labour government as well.